on a more serious note, right? I remember you mentioned that a lot of the farmers in India, they are committing suicide as a result of difficult conditions, and I will give you a bit of depth over more factors around it. One of them being that India is not necessarily fertile and rainy everywhere. Some places are very dry and arid, the land, right? And often farmers are unable to get enough of a harvest in order to make enough profits to sustain themselves. And this obviously brings in my mind, this a big question, like, despite these conditions, when they were made to grow GMO cotton instead of hemp, and uh, what would you say, how could these farmers get the right back to grow hemp? Because I understand hemp even grows in these difficult conditions, whereas all these other crops, they don't, right? So, what would you suggest to the farmers here? How can they manage to become a part of the hemp industry the way the farmers in America have managed to, become part of the hemp industry?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. Now, they understand the way it works in India is that there is a contractual agreement between the government and Monsanto to grow a certain amount of this crop for them, which led to all of led to all the suicides. So I don't. I'm not sure of politically in India, how. I know how we do it in America. We would, you'd get a union of farmers, or you'd have a coalition of farmers who would approach the government and say, we want to do something different, or we need a different policy so that we don't have to do this practice anymore. We want to do hemp. We don't want to do GMO cotton anymore, as an example, or we want to integrate hemp into a holistic kind of food system. So I would say, I tend to think of everything through a policy view, because that's how we make change here in the U.S. And that is, and that's how we've done it. So I'd say in India and maybe even as much, if you look at what sometimes really helps drive policy is when you have industry say, we want a different product. So if you're looking at, let's say, sustainable textiles as an example. Textiles pre-COVID at least was a $750 billion a year industry, and there's a big push around the globe for sustainable fibers. Kind of enlightened consumers aren't interested in GMO derived cotton as an example for their clothes, or because they understand a lot of the ramifications of that practice. So if you think about just tapping 1% of that, for every 1% of that market, you've got a $7.5 billion opportunity. So if you kind of think about how you could grow and create these high-end textiles, or for clothing, there is a demand out there, and a demand particularly tied, I think in your case, particularly tied to a story where you can say, we're trying to heal these communities that have been broken because they were forced to go down a road they didn't particularly want to go down, and one that hasn't been really honored their ability to care for their family, be a part of their community. We want to do something different. I think as we move into this 21st century with technology and brand stories, where you can reach a consumer is also an important piece of how you create change.
And tied to that too, Michael, I'm curious, like when I think about people like making that push in India, for growing more hemp, expanding the industry there. Immediately, I think about how you were part of the the founding team or the founding chair of the National Hemp Association, and I'm curious, like Vinesh, is there a hemp association in India, or like how does a body like a National Hemp Association help to move things forward? And again, Vinesh, I'm curious. It's kind of a double question for both of you. Is there some group like that in India currently?
None.
There's not.
No. It's all independent grows. There are few how do you call it, companies that use the name like India Hemp and so, but they're individual companies. It's not an association of multiple hemp growers coming together.
Mm.
Right. So that is still something which is we don't have any association in India for hemp farming. Although we do regularly, we have many individual companies which make hemp products like hemp fabric products, especially, and they export them all around the world already. So that's going on, but there is no systemized union or system around it. Like, yeah.
And Mike, so Michael, like what is the functioning power of the National Hemp Association? Like, you know, when you guys created that, what was the vision for it of what that
Well,
would what that could
there,
enable?
there were two things where there wasn't really a national organization that worked on that, and that began as a trade organization, and still is. I stepped down from that 2 years ago to when we went to focus on getting the first crop founded, and then we formed a second national group, which I'm a founding board chair of, called U.S. Hemp Growers Association, which is focused entirely on the growers right now, to kind of expand that base of production. So, you know, there in the U.S. we have, you know, tax code that drives some of how these how these organizations are put together. You can be a 501c6, which is a trade organization focused on businesses. You can be a 501c3 that's a not-for-profit. You can be a 501c4 that's for political advocacy. So we saw that as the trade part of this worked pretty well. The folks that are trying to sell equipment, and that they're pretty well funded, tractors, harvesting equipment. They didn't need a lot of support. What we were missing was one that was specific to the growers, and so much like the National Corn Growers Association, the National Wheat Growers Association, those kinds of that focus on a crop. How do you do education? How do you build supply chains? How do you connect to end consumers? And so we felt like we were at that stage here in the U.S. where we needed, if we were going to legitimize the industry and be a player, that we had to have a growers organization just like all the other crops do.
Nice.
Yeah.
This is great. Are you a grower, by the way? I mean, you grew up on a ranch, you said, in eastern Colorado.
I did.
Do you have your own hemp farm also? Do you grow?
Yes, I grew by myself back in pre first crop, just on my own. In fact, we planted an 80th anniversary plot in August of 2017 that celebrated the 80th anniversary of the Marijuana Tax Act, or uncelebrated, we'll put it that way. And then we grew for some grain and fiber the 2 years before that.
Nice.
Now, when we established our first crop, entity, and we grow. My participation is growing through first crop right now.
Nice. Hey, well, I mean, perfect segue there. Tell us about first crop, man. I mean, as we speak, there's some first crop products, heading over the pond, as they say, coming to India.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well,
So for the audience in India, Michael is also the co-founder of First Crop, as I mentioned, which is here, look, boom. I happen to have some right here.
Good stuff. I can vouch for that.
Good product placement, right? I'll just put this on, put it on a shelf.
There you go. Yeah.
So, but First Crop is a social good company, right? It has a social purpose, supporting farmers, right?
It is. It's a public benefit corporation. I'm one of 5 that formed it. Our vision was a social good public benefit corporation.
Okay.
It's becoming pretty popular in the United States. So we've not focused on just the bottom line, as so many of our old legacy corps do. It's really about how do we support the farmers, how they can participate in some of the upstream from retail. We have a foundation that will give back to the communities in which we serve. The farmers, we have a contractual relationship with their farmers, so they know they have some place for their crop to go, in the end. And so we're focusing on regenerative practices, and we believe regenerative, whether it's the soil, our own soil, our communities, our land. We, this plant gives us an opportunity to think about things differently, and to be part of the solution, and to support our farmers, as we grow. So we're thrilled to have accomplished this. We're just harvesting our second crop now, and have products now. COVID certainly slowed us down a little bit with our launch, but we have some great products out there now. A wonderful set of farmers that we work with, and other farmers who would like to work with us. So this was a bad year to try to expand acreage, given all the conditions in the U.S. But we worked with 11 farmers last year. We focusing particularly on smaller farms. We believe an aggregate of small farms has got the power. It's not like the old, my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, it was a dairyman in the Great Depression. And you band together. You create cooperatives. You find your strength in numbers, and you don't have to be, the one big dog. We'd frankly rather have 100 viable, small, healthy farmers contribute in their community than one big one.
Awesome. I like that, man. I like that a lot.